slave, you are a slave. Yesu, or the year corner hinium. Akodia dear. Ti Yesu on to be fire in kwa. Yeah, the sumful. You see, there's a difference between a slave. Obi oya kwa or tim kwasum. Slavery your friend en kwasum. Esrobia oye or tim kwasum and obia awesome. Two different things. Eti woba bro for the kasemwa. Aden yan can say goods and slaves. But we say goods and services. Aden one can goods and slaves. But I see goods and services. And goods and service. They don't use the word servant. Sasana tia dia uko restaurant. Daniela, one almost serve or honey from say waiters and waitresses. So some me. I don't know how many slaves. Abrafuri Shada, and you so beautiful words to describe their own from the paradigms and parameters of slavery. Quotation where our Bible muno. As of one Shada, almost say our own masters, they are one we are D4. Evangelists, pastors, master, those who are believing masters, those who have believing masters are not to be disrespected towards them because they are brothers in Christ. It is a meje. The odi me so ye me slave ni GDR. That's a maji Yesu edi. What did the odi hu she umu? The ohunu oppressor. Yanko the next quotation. Na me because me a slave trade, you know. 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 8. Anu kra na ehunu. 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 8. It is slavery. Eye obinim de was shed down. And yes sir, our Bible munti sanity, it's a lie. And I refuse to believe those things. Because if indeed we are all created in the image of God, why would one image rule over the other image? If we were all created in the image of God, how would one image decide to rule over the other image? So God is ruling over God. How is that possible? 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 8. Now, many abutani adaja kan niam bebre sua niam bebre about this. And I think sir, as a before, I see a 10 niam be ase. Na ya ma ya dwemu ya du. Na ya ma ya nyansa ne enim dia edoso bebre. Sade ya ba ya yebetime yi ye ho. Efri osom nko asom mu tiemiye. Sade ya ba ya yebeyi ye ho. Men kan brofo da. Yebeyi ye ho efri osom enko asom mu. Slave trade e your osom. Efisa wo kwa Cape Coast Castle baby ana slaves no wo e wa ase ho no esoro ho na na asoro no wo abrosan na se wo na the Bible ne bre yen na Bible no so megidi say love your neighbor as yourself do wo yonko te se wo ho etimpacho broni ne yonko ne me anasa ne tamfo ne me na me yonko ni broni anasa me tamfo no pacho broni nyame bo ne su ne seso ana e na me nso yankopon bo me ne seso ana adenti na ofa me akoa na me hyefom no de chain ato me nan na ye de nade ato me nan da sabi bi jabe nan ya mete ho me jonso a mete ho me fia mete ho me wu a me dam na ono nso ye asori e wo mapampam ha ye ina ye nyame ma ye sum nyame o na ono de or the chain atomic kon the chain atomic nsa the chain atomic nine bomb ma e fa ma wom e repi won e tete won e pra won e kuma pemfo e kuma mema wo ho odin na owia na brosan ne soro ho na o say osum nyame e wo ho. 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 8. Eti mama wati ase enye nyankopon na ma obi atumi so on for obi a slave. That is not correct. I've told you, all those who came to colonize us, colonization is an expansion of great leadership philosophy. And slave trade, a leadership psyche. Hey? Krom ha eti se si obi betu ya fobi akwa. So what dream odura? Ebi before your problem ne say ya dream nye du. Ya sheda ye efise when we di ye nso no they taught us timidity. Who are you to rise up against leadership? No, who are you? So betimi ya sorry etia mpanimfo. Etu ba bibi memu a je wo ya akokora na wonim nyansa wusa sabe aburu sabe anyado wo ye jimifo. Aje wunyini anse wadi mpanimu. Wusa wuntimi ndi pani. Meanwhile Bible ni mu no obi di 7 years odi hene. Ba wo ba Ghana ye constitution mu a 1D40 a wuntimi ndi president. Undi 18 a but I can stand here on authority and tell you we have 60 years old boys and 17 years old men. 1 Peter 2 verse 8. Ehu yabekan e Bible nim. Mi wi a mesan kwotena se. Na me de wi. 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 8. Can't cry na me raho. 8 no he we de hino no. Pen IV mami and the amplified version mami. Pen IV and amplified. We mi hu Bible version kono. Eno na ma etoda. Aye say Yenianu Muslimi for no, they've been consistent and constant with their levels of protection of their book. How many versions of Quran do we have? How many versions of Quran do we have? It's done than the Bible now to suit our own whims and caprices. Yes, we there, brofu we twem we na there. Quran one. It's a okay Bible de bedu baby ne de bibia to commerce. Pacho wo kan Bible na da Israel na. Ye mfa bibia into brackets bia ni bibia Bible nim e wo Israel ho. Ba ye krom ha Bible ye kan brofu into brackets bebre. Brackets be ya. If you're a slave, you're a slave. Don't try to tell me I'm a polished slave. Now, ye ebi before no. Ya dua wo yetimu nyina ne sa. Sa me ye kwan a efa. Me ye 4 lanes from Nkran ekọ Kumase. Na me ye 4 lanes from Kumase eba Nkran a broni bekumi. Mbwa. He, enyo bia na eye. Ya dwimu na nye du. Ya dwimu oha. Eti hwade. Obi ya ade na eye yi a. near the slave trade akɔ ho eti time space to space ba no baako for ye no ne ye nyina space to space ye hu yan say vom agye agu yet krom hasad obi start communication center friend com center to krom bia be fa bia com center ho abrofo no say monto aso a leadership deficiency vom and a com center gu ye hu de and a Skype by Junior computer si wanim e ba ye gidi ye hu yan say what's up aba tis me from here video call me here Skype me here mobile phone what's up pa honey yes oh say honey ne bon komo ne ye ko betu kra de ato nchen ada ebinu kra de no kra ye sex mboa yes your friend phone sex ka kan kwase asem sabon so omo ho aba eti mami second 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 8 therefore rid yourself of all malice and all deceit therefore rid yourself of all malice and deceit, hypocrisy, envy, and slander of every kind. Dimetio, like newborn babies, crave for pure spiritual milk. Hey. And that's what penny baba and me person me ho sofo me nya sofo kakra minimno na meka so that by it you may grow up in your salvation, now that you have tested that the Lord is good. Oh, Yesu Christo, mebodi. Sanyesa, say dear, a son, Santi. You won't free malice, a dream fee, a dream fearful, a dream bonin in nada. Pacho, you won't free. Quotation way more do. You won't free. Neja nya chum. Nejai enibre. Nejai say uchiri papayo. Esan say waya yawo fufronti. Aha so yede dada ye. Meba betro di ntia yede dada ye. Aha is about Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King said that no, I will not follow your malice, I will not follow your deceit. I will never be hypocrite that you are feeding me with good food and everything that I need as an individual. I can never be a hypocrite. I will never be envious of anybody. In your thinking that I am a newborn, you want to give me a spiritual milk. I am not interested. Orie, no, the same chapter, 2 Peter chapter 2, called 18, never heard show. Something was to know, Orie 18. 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 18. And what 2 now, 18. Mirewe na me de na part 1 na be we 2 Peter 2:18 na fe de all catch yen say obi de ya won foforo it is say a condom spiritual milk no ye onyankopon nimde na doye mu nyansa ene ne mobro hunu mu anisuade hunu twi na meka no mu odudodo ne mobro hunu mu anisuade hunu a emu do a ebru nipa adwene ne nte ase so eno ene spiritual milk ene na sese ekwo hwe ene na beto ma Ghana ya aeroplane Once Apostle Kojo Safo yeka. Aban bi aba wo Fourth Republic bibia no na ni biri Kojo Safo. Me na me ka che Rollins ochi Kojo Safo. Kufuor ompe. Mills na ompe. Mahama ompe. Akufo-Addo Kojo Safo ne bakura wona ban mu so still ya ompe. So wo nyina ye nyansafo a wo Nyankopon mu mmobro hunu mu ani suade hunu a adenti na won fa sika nhyem na ga na ye nya ye ka. Adenti na won fa sika nhyem ye ni krom ha na obi nya HIV aduro. Adenti na ye ntimi ye nya abanya odi sika bewuram. Onyankopon mmobro hunu mu nimdiya ehu akiri denti na ya fa sika wuram na branche ne tam sa nimdiya no pa any Japan any France and omo de develop antiretroviral drug na wo san de bre yen e wo Ghana ha se ya dwene ya adwuma enye nkoasom na ye datim na denti na ye ntimi ye develop. 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 18 hwe ehu say slaves had a sinipi. The same 1 Peter chapter 2 no verse 1 no or say yankonom spiritual milk. What is spiritual milk in we are not be poison. Slaves, in reverent fear of God, submit yourself to your masters. Not only to those who are good and considerate, but also those who are harsh. What do you mean? What do you mean? Some quotation we are just saying. Slaves. So if Mr. Niyama is harsh towards me, you want me to keep quiet? So because Mr. Niyama be pa. Slaves, in reverence, fear of God, submit yourselves to your masters. Sir, it's your BBM, no, you train UK, you train US, you train Portugal, you train France, you train Europe, you train Australia, and say, yeah, submit yourselves, not only to those who are good and considerate, but also to those who are harsh. Hey, sir. Said the Nyankopon ni onyam beda dinti. Broni ba ha no the second be wo me yema or me master. Enti Nyankopon ni onyam beda dinti. Men submitted to him. Me nya. And the Baba Cobra and Sam I am ready. Me nya. What for contiba the body patrim one? What come back? Who come mienu? What my Jamenai, Medaho, my Junso, Medem, a common deme, Memfi, Padia in Pierre, Shadia that TVC. Now was say me a slave. It's a member of me who answers Shana say, my mastophobia and tries over be defending the way. Say, slaves in India, a Yamin Crow for a more sorry demono. Now, slave masters, no, and a don't come here to say that. Slave is a slave. So these are slaves. Brony Ben, you found a slave was as me. Americans were colonized by the British. They were not taking slaves. Tell me, you can go do one so. So one hine. And a one so. Now, so one for America for Enram Kwasum. They used we the blacks. And let me repeat without fear that these guys succeeded using Christ to polish the slave trade. They use Christ, yes, to polish slave trade. eti ye du baabi a esese ye bobo ye ho na ye ma ya dwen ye adwuma say be before if you say your big strategy makacho say a leadership expansion, a leadership psyche that we feel superior. We are the best of what God created. So leadership, leadership. If you're a leader, you must be available. If you're a leader, you must be accessible. Into time na aeroplane in my na train in my na car my no. When they can ba leaders, the British, they came here as leaders. They made themselves available. They made themselves accessible as leaders, so they can rule over our thinking. And now, God when my tono, Emma America for, and I mean some papa, at Tommy, Emma France for, and you know, France over 20 languages I know one would trade Manebeka one. Would do Mali, Senegal, Gabon, and we'll catch on say, Montomo Casana, Nyanko Pond de Ma, Mononton Chene, Namunka ye crook Casa. Who do Nigeria? Casa baby. Today, tribes. Ghana had tribes, baby. Me a Ghana man penin na. Bro for Casa na. Modi ayemu official language. Me kwado smart. Take it from me today, right today's date. If I were the president, and if by the grace of God I become president of this country, that your so-called bogus language you call the English language, that is me, my official language, you know, make them. Yes, Sabine, what we say, my fairly English in Timinto University. Less. Obi krom kasa. Eti. Man to be English C6. Enti nyame bo me se me meye nurse. Obi krom kasa nti me ntimi nya nurse. Ye modam. Eti efi a kina kono. Afi we ina no me pesa wadwi mu da ho. Na ye hu se ye nso ye betimi aye aeroplane ni bi. But ye near leadership, Papa. You bet me a cars. But ye near leadership, Papa. Kwame Nkrumah wa ye be paying. So there's a susudia. I bet me there so. I build your own tile factory. Tiles factory. And again any tiles are. You see you will be a friend of Spanish tiles. And ye Papa. Ye more damn. Wa bra clay na ye tiles no. The Papa no krum ha China for 2 year clay export it and the ko krum the koye tiles no they brain we ref say Spain now one axim A2 is clear e wo axim ne ne enclave and the cost Spain what the clay ne kwaje dan. There's something wrong with us. We need to just leave this kind of leadership. Achna met was slave trade in so. If yada, me has a met me a ria. Na mama what dream what da ho. I'm one who say, a dear be a near sassy swa, won't me nyo. Nemum, what the woo? A question no me be as ya. I say, Bible say, na me de mojanum emumu yeso akatua